Welcome to episode 3 of Manga Head, and today we're going to discuss the fourth arc in Tokyo Ghoul, the Gourmet arc. I'm your host Dawson, and Morgs, how you doing?
I'm good.
I don't know why I awkwardly paused after I did the intro, but
It's all good.
so this week we read the Gourmet arc, which is right after the Dev's Emergence arc, and I would say it was definitely a lot more interesting. It was shorter than the last one, but it was a lot more interesting than the last one as well, in my opinion. Um, and the reason I say that is because I feel like there was a lot more characterization for Kaneki, Toka, and also the villain in this arc was a lot more interesting than the last one, Mato, because Mato just kind of felt evil for no reason to me. And this guy, the the gourmet arc villain, what the hell is his name? Shu. Shu Sukiyami, I think is his name. Yes. He was definitely like the major villain that made me interested in the series so far. So what this arc's about is essentially we're not gonna like do an entire summary like we did last episode, but a quick one is Kaneki after the Dev's Emergence arc, we get a chapter or two of them discussing the gourmet and who he is and kinda they want Kaneki, not Kaneki, to figure out what he's all about. So essentially, Kaneki befriends him, and he thinks he's actually a pretty cool guy at first. And the gourmet ends up taking him to uh, one of his. The gourmet is essentially part of this group that has like banquets every month, and he's kind of like a fancy guy. He's kind of an outcast. Well, he invites Kaneki to one of these banquets after they're friends for a while, and Kaneki goes and realizes that they are pretty much a bunch of ghoul cannibals. From what I picked up, I think is what they were doing. I'm
Yeah.
reading, yeah. So they basically have this giant monster, and they go in there and they kill ghouls and eat them. So
Not necessarily, they just look for like the higher quality things to eat.
right,
So I'm pretty sure usually they do eat like higher quality people. It's just Kaneki's different, so they're like, oh,
right, and oh right, and Kaneki was supposed to be killed that entire time, uh, and be fed to all the people there. And Shu was actually like the leader of this entire weird cult thing. And I think the reason they wanted to feed off Kaneki was because he had he's half ghoul, half human, and they noticed that with his eyes.
hmm.
But I mean that's kinda it for the arc. There's you know, it's basically that, and then after that banquet, it's them getting ready to fight Shu, fighting Shu, Toka and Kaneki and Nishiki pretty much all go to fight Shu because Shu invites Kaneki to a dinner because Shu kidnapped what's her name? I think it's what is her name? The girl with the scar. Kimi, which is Nishiki's sister, I believe. No, it's
His
not.
girlfriend.
It's his girlfriend. Sorry, I'm looking at their last names and I couldn't tell at first because their last his last name is Nishio and hers is Nishino.
Yeah, it's all good.
So I mean, anyways, that's kind of it for the arc. At the end of it, we get a really cool scene with essentially they've been fighting Shu the entire time, and Nishiki can't do anything.
Chapter did you leave off on?
The I read one past the end of the arc, and the end of the arc is on chapter. Where is it? Gourmet arc. The last chapter is chapter 46, Light, and I read past like one past that one.
Okay. So then you watched them fight Toka.
Yeah, I got past the fight and all that. Um,
I really
I'm
like that
good.
fight.
I do too because there's that scene where it's revealed earlier on the scar that Kimi has is from Nishiki because through like a fight scene flashback, basically Nishiki is fighting someone over Kimi, and then he can't fight anymore. But Kimi realizes that, oh, he's a ghoul, so if he takes a bite out of me, he'll be better and can fight, and he won't be so sick. So they take a bite out, or he takes a bite out of her, and she has a giant scar, and it's revealed why she has that scar through that scene. So that was kind of foreshadowing leading up to when Toka and Kaneki are fighting Shu. They they have to do that exact same thing. So Toka takes a bite out of Kaneki because Kaneki is half human. So it energizes her to go and use her Kagane on Shu, and they end up beating him and winning the fight. So
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because it kind of shows off like how Nishiki he bit Kimi because he
mhm.
was dying basically, right? And then it was kind of like the same thing with Toka and
Yeah, it kind of shows how the ghouls have their weak side and how they're not just these super crazy strong beings. Because I think at first it kind of felt to me like they were all just um, incredibly strong, powerful beings that can't really be beaten. But it kind of showed to me that after they fight for a certain extended period of time, they get very weak and they have to feed, or else they aren't going to. Do they die, or is it just more like they can't live, or they can't really function correctly?
they just can't function because eventually it's like their primal instincts are going to take over and they're going to go eat, but they'll
Right.
do anything to do it. So basically, what happens with Toka is that Toka was only eating Yoriko's food, her friend's food. So she got weak because she was eating human food instead of like ghoul food. And
Right. Okay.
that's another thing. Like you see how Toka's jealous of Kaneki, and it's because Kaneki used to be able to eat all this human food, So he knows what it tastes like, but then she doesn't ever know. So that's one of the reasons why Toka is so like cold-sided towards him because she wants to be able to enjoy her friend's food, but she can't.
Right, and it's like kind of it shows that because in the earlier chapters, there's that one scene where Toko's friend brings over food for her or whatever, and Kaneki can eat it, but she can't.
Right.
Yeah, so that's actually a pretty cool insight because I didn't really think of it that way when I was reading it. I was just kind of like, oh, she's just pissed off at Kaneki, but it definitely evolves her character a little bit more and makes her not so cold-sided. So that was pretty cool to see. Um, I think one thing that like really stuck with me on this arc was Shu because he was a really he wasn't like the most characterized villain necessarily, but I just really liked the scene where they're at the banquet. I thought it was kind of cool how he was like this cult leader that befriended Kaneki, and Kaneki kind of thought like, oh, maybe he's not like a bad guy, and I might be able to trust him. And it kind of takes a huge 180. And I kind of was expecting it because he seemed really just too good to be true. So, but he was a pretty interesting villain for the most part. He wasn't exactly the most well characterized, but he had a lot of cool powers and he was fairly menacing. So,
His character is basically just there to stalk Kaneki, and he's just like he's
yeah.
basically just like, oh my god, I need to eat him because he is
Yeah.
divine specimen.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that we'll find out why he is that way, maybe like in the coming arcs or maybe even the next arc because I noticed that the next arc's one of the longest ones in the series. So,
So good to see Toka's Kagune.
yeah, that was pretty cool. We finally got
'Cause
to see like what she's all about with her powers and stuff.
they haven't explained Kagunes, have they yet? Technically, because we saw shoes, which is his arm
Yep.
sword, which is really
He
cool.
he kind of explains it. Let me go
I
back to
can't
that
remember if that was in the
chapter.
earlier chapters or not, because I couldn't find it.
I
But
know that like you see what a Kagane is in one of the chapters, but I don't really know if it's like explained necessarily.
I know it does get explained eventually. So like basically, Shu's Kagune is I can't remember the types, but it's one of the types, and he has like this sword thing. That was really cool because we haven't really seen much of the Kagunes yet.
Yep.
And so Shu's was like one of the first full blown ones that we've seen come out, and then we get to see Toga's come out. And Toga's is like a half wing, so I thought that was really cool. I think her Kagune is very pretty.
Yeah, the way he kind of explains it is it's he says this exactly. A ghoul's strength is largely dependent on their cognate. It's an organ for predation, so to speak. The RC cells surge within our bodies, an increase in muscular strength, enhanced mobility, an increase in recuperative strength, and it gives them just pretty much all kinds of ability benefits and abilities. So it's not like super well explained, but it's more explained than what we've got up to anything at this point. So
It'll get more explained. The thing is that I think right now, like, it's still just kind of like showing off some of them, but
yeah.
the different types of Kagune also like it changes the way you fight, obviously, and like
Mhm.
it's just you'll see a lot more of that later on. But it's just interesting because we're finally seeing those come out.
It's kind of like, I mean, every shonen has their power system, so we're just getting introduced to this one. So,
Yeah,
although
because
I would say that so far this isn't really much of a shonen to me.
is Tokyo Ghoul a shonen?
Um, I don't really know if it is necessarily. Let me
I
look
don't
it up.
I don't think it is a shonen, is it? I thought it was a seinen.
Um, Tokyo Ghoul is it's technically a dark fantasy slash supernatural thriller. Let
Oh.
me look up if it's like a shonen. I mean, it was in Shonen Jump, so
Yeah, but I'm almost positive it's a seinen because I mean, wasn't Attack on Titan and Shonen Jump?
it says yeah. Well, no, Attack on Titan wasn't in Shonen Jump.
Oh,
Yeah, Attack on Titan was published in something else, I believe.
I mean,
Oh, maybe it was. Oh yeah, no, it was. It was Shonen Jump. You're right. Or no, it was Kodansha. Yeah, but that's beside the point. According to Google, it is a seinen. It's a shonen anime, and it's a seinen manga, I guess.
nobody really knows. I think judging by what I'm
Yeah,
reading,
I'm on the Reddit right now, and it seems like it's a
very
big
back and forth.
discussion. Yeah.
It's good.
So, yeah,
That's
it
all I
doesn't really matter to me if what it is at this point. Um, I mean, shonen to me, like, is stuff like Hunter x Hunter, DBZ, Naruto, that kind of stuff. But this kind of honestly, what this reminds me of so far, which is kind of a weird thing to say,
Mhm.
just kind of with the art and the way the story's progressing, it reminds me of like very early Bleach. I haven't read Bleach all the way through, but like from what I have, this gives me like weird Bleach vibes for some reason.
I've
I
never
don't
read
know.
Bleach either, but I will say there's a lot of animes and mangas that do the same thing where it's like, we have these bad villains and then the main character
Right.
turns into that bad villain. Like Attack on Titan, he hates Titans, but he is one. Uh,
Right.
there's a lot of other ones. I can't think of them right now. But obviously Tokyo Ghoul is another one where it's like, oh, ghoul, but then he turns into a ghoul, and then you get to see that completely fall apart. But the difference between this one and other ones is I think this one does it a lot better, and like we'll see that more like
Right.
further down the line.
Yeah, I
Like,
think
Kaneki's character development is so in depth, I feel, but this is only like the tip of it. So
right, and we still got like a lot more on this series to go. I do think that like it's been interesting already to see how he's developed because, at first he was very cold to all the other ghouls, and now he's kind of like starting to befriend Toka more. He obviously cares for Nishiki, even though Nishiki tried to kill him in earlier chapters. So
yeah,
it's definitely interesting the way it's progressed
and he
already so
befriended
far.
He became friends with Shu pretty fast.
Right. So he's kind of getting used to like his new life basically. Um I don't really know what else I want to touch on. This was a pretty short arc, but I didn't want to jump into Aogri Tree, whatever it's
Three.
called. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
want to jump into that just because it's
that's when things are gonna get even bigger, broader. I thought
right.
one of the coolest things was in. You said you read chapter 46, right?
Yes.
Like we see Toka, and she was gonna go after because the rule is like there's no humans that can know that you're a ghoul. And
Yeah.
so since Kimi knows that everybody's a ghoul now, Toka was like, "Okay, I have to kill her."
Oh yeah, I remember that. I kind of forgot about that actually.
And so it's kind of like everybody's trying to convince her not to kill Kimi, you know. And
Mhm.
obviously you see Nishio or Nishiko, whatever, trying to protect her, trying to protect her.
Kimi.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And then finally, like Kimi looks at Toka and she's just like, "Wow, it's beautiful." And then Toka just kind of like gets shell shocked and she just like doesn't know what to do, you know. So
Right, yeah.
she just runs away, and it's because I think she just hates the fact that she's a ghoul. So like just hearing that, it just sparked something in her, and she's like, "Yeah, okay, I'm out." She's so self conscious, you know, of her ghoulness.
Right, yeah.
And like obviously you can't really tell that especially her Kagune is like as pretty as it is because it's not animated or anything, but in in like in the anime it's you know, have you seen pictures of it?
Um I mean like a few stills, yeah. It's very I don't know what I'm trying to say. Finish your thought.
Trying to find a clip of it.
Like,
It
are you kind of like saying how the Kagane looks? Oh, I see what you're saying.
it's just cool seeing like a human tell a ghoul that is so self conscious that she thinks that like the Kagune is pretty because that causes Toka to like just I don't even know, just completely die inside.
Yeah, spiral out of control. Yeah,
Because
I guess I kind of was confused at first when I read it. It's hard for me to pick up on that kind of stuff with manga, like the characters and the way they feel when other characters speak to them and like say something that maybe sets them off. So I see why Toka was set off because of that, with how she's not really, a fan of being a ghoul.
no, so that was really interesting because I think it just shows more of Toka's character, and obviously she's very tsundere, which is the only way to really explain it. She's just kind of like, you know, cold, hard outside, but then on the inside she has a lot of insecurities and things like that, and
Right.
we're seeing that come out more and more slowly over time.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. And
Yeah, I mean,
we heard this is just a small thing, but we heard her
mhm.
friend Yoriko mention Ayato, which is her brother, Toka's brother,
Oh,
which
right,
we
we
didn't
do. Very
we didn't really
briefly.
know about.
Yeah,
So
so
just kind of
he's
like
definitely gonna come in, I'd imagine.
yes, it's kind of like foreshadowing there.
Right. Yeah, I will say this manga does foreshadowing pretty well, surprisingly.
There's just a lot of small things that are
Yeah,
difficult
that
to
get
pick up.
mentioned, and it's kind of like, oh, whatever. I can or Toko has a brother, and then I'm sure it'll, be a big deal later on.
Find the brother. I also thought like the art already is increasing so much as time goes on. 'Cause, like the
Yeah,
first
the first battle with the Cognes and with Shu was very well drawn and a lot better than anything else that the series has had so far, for sure.
yeah, I thought it was very pretty.
Hmm.
And especially
Got
like
it.
there's this one just panel of Nishiko and it just like I don't know, the art for it is just amazing. He's just got here, I'll send it. It's this one.
Oh
Like
yeah,
the
that's
art
really
there
good.
is really amazing.
Do you know what chapter that's from?
It's from
Maybe.
chapter 46, page 123.
Right. So that would be volume 6. I think. Yeah. Uh, I agree with you there. Yeah, the art's definitely already getting better as it's gone on. I mean, by now it's probably been serialized for like a year at this point. So, was this his first manga that he ever did? The mangaka, I guess is what you would say.
Sui Ishida.
I don't think it was.
He did. See, one, two. Because he did a one shot of Tokyo Ghoul before Tokyo Ghoul
Right.
actually came out, and then he did two more. He did a web comic and then another web comic before them, which
Okay.
they
So,
they have very interesting names.
oh
He did.
wow, yeah, I see
You see
that.
that he did the Tale of Longing for Sex, which is a 2009 web comic, and the Penis
And
Man.
I want to read these.
Hold on,
The
I gotta Google this.
the Penis Man sounds interesting.
Like I don't understand what this would be about. Whoa, there's a lot of chapters. Chapters 1 to 95.
Well, right now he's working on one called "This Gorilla Will Die One Day."
Interesting.
He what's the Hisoka story draft? Did he work on like a Hisoka story for Hunter x Hunter?
What's Hisoka?
Hisoka?
Oh, that's the clown guy.
Yeah. Wow,
It's it is. It's a one
he has a
shot.
YouTube channel and he does gameplay videos.
Does he actually?
Yeah, here I'll send you a link. He
Oh,
apparently did like a playthrough of Resident Evil already and stuff, or Resident Evil 8.
I'm looking at his Penis Man.
Yeah? You're looking
Yeah,
at his penis, man?
yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, it's
I
kind of
don't.
weird, Morse.
Wait,
You,
who
sh-
read it for?
you shouldn't look at that.
I didn't realize he did
I
that.
can't find the YouTube channel, but yeah, I guess apparently he does gameplay videos on there.
I didn't realize he made he he Hisoka's one shot of his past.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
He's a big artist, so I know he was making another series, but I'm pretty sure it was canceled.
Right.
I don't know why.
Maybe they couldn't fund it or it wasn't the right time.
Something.
Yeah,
That's
I don't know. I'm interested to see where it's gonna go though from here. I'm definitely a lot more hooked than I was last week with the arc that we read this week.
yeah. The start is kind of like bland, I would say, but then like it picks up pretty
Yeah.
well. And it's funny
Yeah, it
because
definitely is.
in the anime, it actually does the whole. It does that arc first, the shoe arc,
Oh, does it?
and then it does Hinami's arc.
Right.
And I think it's just I think they did that because it's easier to get somebody hooked with the shoe arc than it is the other one.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's an interesting little fun fact. But yeah,
I don't really have a whole lot else to say, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I would just kind of say that this arc was definitely a lot better than the last one, and it was a lot more interesting to me personally. The art got a lot better. The characterization for Kaneki of him kind of accepting his role as a ghoul now is definitely a lot more interesting than what we've been getting. So overall, I'm enjoying it a lot more than I was last week.
yeah, and it's only gonna get like better. So I'm
Right.
really excited to get into the Aogiri arc because I think that's one of the best ones.
That's what I've heard. So I
A
think
lot
that's
of new
gonna.
characters gonna be introduced as well.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to really pay attention.
Yeah, I mean most of them are pretty. They stand out. So
Right. All right. Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up for this week. So thank you, Margs, and we will be back next week with the
Aogiri,
Aorgri,
Aogiri.
Aogiri tree arc slash. I don't remember what it was also called, but pretty much Aogiri tree. How do you say it?
Aogiri.
Aogiri tree. All right. Well, thank you for listening. So, uh, I gotta get Craig to leave now.
Tell Craig to leave.
You tell Craig to leave.
You tell Craig to leave.
I'm leaving that in.
Okay.